and prevail in your fantasy football league with the help of our starting lineup. At host to quarterback the show, we have Nick Giacobbe. Up next, a dual threat in Dynasty and Daily Fantasy, we have Cody Repass. And finally, working the waiver wire, we have Nick Cap. These are your playmakers that will provide you with sleepers, breakouts, and busts to help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 13 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, with the hopes that we help you succeed throughout the 2021 fantasy football season. I am your host, Nick Giacobbe, and joining me on this lovely Tuesday is Nick Capsalis. Nick, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty good. It's not a Tuesday yet, so I got a couple of games riding. We're recording at the start of Monday Night Football. Got a couple fantasy matchups relying on this matchup, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm doing pretty good other than that.
Yeah, we record Monday nights, Sunday nights, depending on the week. So it's a Monday night. The football game just started. Looks like, is that Jonathan Taylor running? Cody, is that Jonathan Taylor? Yep. It is. That is Jonathan Taylor. That's a 60-yard touchdown for Jonathan Taylor. He might have going back in a matchup. You just heard this live on the show. Okay, that is 75 yards. Holy crap. Wow. Hold on. I got to check my matchup here. We're flipping the script here. Hold on. I might actually have a sliver of a chance here.
That just gave me hope.
Not really.
Receiving touchdown.
I'm still going to need like 22 points. This matchup is rough. Probably didn't help me out. That's rough. But did I just win another matchup? This is bad radio, but this is exciting. This matchup's winnable now. This other matchup's winnable. He is the Baltimore defense, and I have Taylor, and I'm down 4 points. That's winnable now.
It's pretty funny. I actually have a game right, and I only have Jonathan Taylor. I needed a lot of points. Now I only need 21.2. So
yeah, I need now. I need 22 in one league from Taylor still. In another league, I need looks like about 3 or 4. And in my other league, I think I'm getting crushed in at the moment. This league is not well, actually, no. He has Lamar, never mind. So he's up 11. He has the Baltimore D and Lamar. I just have Jonathan Taylor, so that's probably cooked as well. Anyway, sorry for that one, guys. We got a little excited there, but that's the fun of watching these games. We couldn't do that on Sunday because the Jets-Falcons game stunk big time.
All
right, let's get into the show. We are on audio formats. If you want to find us on Tuesdays and Fridays for content like this, you can find us on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify, anywhere where you find your podcast. If you're on Apple, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. If you want to watch the show, we are on YouTube, again, Tuesdays and Fridays. And then if you want to watch the show on Sundays, we have a live show, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, 11 a.m. We answer your daily fantasy questions. We talk a little bit about injury updates and then everything else. So, Nick, how's your week 5 gone so far?
Pretty good. I mean, I'm looks like I definitely won 2 leagues. Looks like I definitely lost 2 leagues, and I got 2 more riding on tonight. The Jonathan Taylor touchdown definitely helped out big time, though.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It looks like I could go 2-2 now. I guess technically I have a chance to win all 4, but it looks like I'm on 2-2, which isn't terrible, but I'm just middle of the pack in all my leagues. So hopefully you guys are doing a little bit better than I am at least. So let's get into some injury updates and some news. We have a lot of injuries to talk about, so let's get right into it. Tom Brady has a thumb injury. He was icing his thumb at the end of the game where he scored a whopping 39 fantasy points. He was the quarterback 2 on the week. So the thumb didn't bother him that much. Should be good for Thursday Night Football against the Eagles this week. Nick, are you worried about Tom Brady at all?
No, never concerned about Tom Brady.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Juju Smith-Schuster has a shoulder injury. He had surgery on Sunday night. I believe it is season ending. So, Nick, if you're a Juju owner, you're dropping him unless it's Dynasty. But if you're an owner of Claypool or Deontay Johnson or even Najee Harris, how are you kind of taking this news?
So Claypool is someone that I own in multiple leagues, and he's someone that's always been a fringe starter for me. Just because of Big Ben's arm is really not there. But ever since Juju got hurt in that 1 week where Deontay and Juju went down, Claypool stepped into a role when one of them leaves the field where he's a must start every single week. He's a dominant receiver. In my opinion, he has the upside to be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL talent-wise. If you had a better quarterback, I think you'd very clearly see that this year. So I really have no concern. I think actually a lot of my concern goes away with the Juju injury. I think Claypool's someone I'm going to be starting the rest of the season without a single question in my mind.
I hate to say this, but if you're a Juju owner, this is kind of a blessing in disguise because you kind of thought, oh, he's still Juju, still a guy I could flex out. You can't flex him out anymore. You can't even make the decision. You can't even ponder it. So it sucks because you probably spent a higher pick, a 6 or a 7 on him, which isn't too high. I guess it's kind of middle-ish, front end middle-ish, but it might be a blessing in disguise, and it's going to clear up that Steelers offense a bit. They did get going, so, we'll see what happens next week. But guys like Najee, guys like Deontay, guys like Claypool, I think they're going to really benefit from this. All right, the Chiefs are all banged up. They got an ass whooping last night. Clyde Edwards-Helaire left the game. What was it, beginning of third quarter or something like that? I forget if it was before halftime. We had a super long intermission. It felt like the Super Bowl halftime show without the performance at that point. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a left knee injury. He left the game. We found out today it is an MCL sprain, so he's out a few weeks, but that's a better diagnosis than we thought last night. So, Nick, if you're a Clyde Edwards-Helaire owner, what is the impact on your fantasy team?
I mean, not much. I mean, we said it on the show. This is a tough matchup for, that Bills defense is actually incredibly talented. There were some question marks, with the teams that they played and letting Big Ben throw all over them. But I mean, those were answered against the Chiefs last night. Clyde, he's a running back, low end RB2, maybe mid tier RB2 for
you spent a second round pick or a third round pick on him. So
yeah, I mean that's where his value is. That's where it's going to be the rest of season. Not too much concern with the injury. You kind of know the player you got, and I think it became much more defined in this game where you saw a tough matchup. He could not propel, and then he went down. Regardless of that, so I think you get a more clear picture of who Clyde is going to be rest of the season, which is a mid-tier RB2.
Yeah, the position is just so thin, and that's the bigger issue. If Clyde is out now, who's your third running back? Who did you draft third? And that's just tough because many people probably took Clyde and maybe somebody else up there and then just said, okay, I'm good on running back. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could get Darrell Williams off your waiver wire if you don't have the handcuff. I'm sure not many people have him rostered, so we'll see what happens with that. Tyreek Hill hurt his knee. They don't believe he's going to miss time. I'm not so worried about it. Are you worried about it at all? So just reporting the injuries, but he should be good. I know Travis Kelce also had a stinger, but I believe he's good to go as well. Yep. Saquon Barkley he did get carted out yesterday, right? I know he got helped off the field, but he was on a cart. Low ankle sprain, so he's not out for the season. It's not broken. It's not an MCL, ACL. It's a low ankle sprain. He's definitely out next week. He's going to be week to week. I think Devontae Booker had a touchdown towards the end of that game. I do forget how many points Booker scored, but I'm going to look that up real quick. Devontae Booker had 20 points, so he had 42 yards, a touchdown. He also had a receiving touchdown. So Devontae Booker, he had 3 receptions on 4 targets, so he could catch the ball a bit. If you're a Saquon Barkley owner, is Devontae Booker a guy that you're targeting to start for you next week?
Yeah, I mean, I got Saquon in one league. My running backs, I went Eckler first round. Saquon fell to me in the second. And, I was lucky enough where I could say Saquon's my running back too. So I'm willing to take the risk on it. We know the injury concerns, so the injury history of him. Some guy that could never stay healthy, it feels like, in past years. But the talent always says he's a top 5 running back, and the opportunity's there because he's a 3-down back. He gets work in the receiving game, gets work in the running game. He's going to get 15 touches, going to get 5 targets a game. That's incredible for a running back. But Devontae Booker is extremely talented. We saw it last year with the Raiders. He replaced Josh Jacobs on 1 of 3 drives, which is shocking. But, I mean, he made the best of it when he got it. So, you clearly saw this game. They put him in a position where he was going to be a 3-down back, and he executed without a problem. Devontae Booker, he should be on your waiver wire. Unless people handcuffed him to Saquon, you should be picking him up and you should be starting him.
All right, keeping it with the Giants, Kenny Golladay, a guy who I crowned big old bust at the beginning of the season, hyperextended his knee. He's out at least 1 week. The Giants wide receiver core it's crowded now. Kadarius Toney's turned into a stud. Evan Ingram, when he wants to use his hands correctly, he can catch the ball. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton are still there, so it's very crowded. So Kenny Galladay's out at least 1 week. And Nick, if you're a Galladay owner, how does this affect your fantasy team?
I'm actually a lot more impressed with Galladay's season. I think me, you, and Cody did not have high expectations for him on the year. He's kind of done pretty good with what he's got. He's starting to build that rapport with Daniel Jones. This kind of stunts it. Jones will talk about it a little later, a little injury for him too. Thankfully it's only a week, but I kind of like the role that he's assumed. I like the chemistry he's gaining with Jones. I think he's a good guy to target rest of season. If you could right now his value's, pretty average.
But are you comfortable starting him in a flex spot every single week?
It will be matchup dependent. I think he's someone that I'll try and trade for in some leagues just because he's a fringe flex play and you're going to play him depending on the matchup. But, the guy was a top 10 fantasy receiver, I think, 2 years ago when he was healthy. So there's no reason he can't hit that ceiling again. We'll see what happens. I don't think he'll be top 10.
Rank the Giants wide receivers from a fantasy perspective, 1 to 4.
Galladay 1.
Rest of season.
Galladay 1, Shepard 2, Toney 3. I love Toney. I just think that he's not going to assume the number 1 or 2 role. I think Shepard's already got the rapport with Jones. I think Toney's starting to build it up, and I think that Galladay's already built it up. I think Toney's starting to build it. I like Toney. If you have a keeper league because he was undrafted in pretty much every league, and I like him in Dynasty. I love him in Dynasty. I don't know if you saw the highlight of the route he ran on Diggs. It's phenomenal. The guy's got tremendous footwork for a rookie.
Dirty. My friend scooped him last week, and I didn't get him in my Dynasty league, unfortunately. For me, I'm going Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Galladay, and Slayton. Daniel Jones went out yesterday. It looked like a pretty gruesome injury, but it's just he's in concussion protocol. I think there's a chance that it looked pretty bad, so I think there's a chance he does miss this week. So Mike Glennon could be the starter. So Nick, if you have one of these Giants wide receivers and Glennon is starting, let me see who he's facing real quick. He'll be facing the Rams. I'm not playing any Giants this week. Nope.
I would if Shepard and or Slayton are out, I would look to play Toney this week because I love the matchup because Galladay should be shadowed most of the game. Galladay's going to be out, so all right, it makes it tough to play any of them. So
yeah,
if maybe you play if Shepard and Toney are out there, maybe you play Toney, but I could see Ramsey going after him too because he just came off 100.
I want no part of any of them. They're all on my bench this week. For those watching the video, if you just saw me fist pumping, Taylor got a nice 10-yard reception. That's 2 fantasy points. 20 more to go. Let's get a 100-yard bonus and let's keep rolling. We need a miracle on Monday night. All right, Max Williams has a season-ending knee injury for the Cardinals. That's one less mouth to feed on the offense and a fringe tight end. My take on this, Nick, is that you probably weren't starting him. He's probably going to hover around the waiver wire the entire season. If he was healthy, you may play him, you may not. And he's boomer bust. And that offense is so crowded. I think this just opens up the floor for AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, and even Hopkins to get more targets. So I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but I never want anybody to get hurt, but for fantasy purposes, this is going to affect too many rosters.
Yeah, it's not affecting too much. He was someone you probably picked up in the past 2-3 weeks and hope to start him. The one thing I would keep the eye out for is the 3-year rumor in the making of Zach Ertz going to the Cardinals. Now there's a real reason to do it. They're 5-0. They're going to need to fill that tight end position.
I don't like Zach Ertz. Joe Burrow suffered an injury in the first quarter. And Nick, I don't know if you took this out of the notes. It was a throat contusion, I think. Yeah,
it was a throat contusion. He was hospitalized as a safety precaution. But they said they released him from the hospital, said it was just a safety thing, and he's good to go. No problem with him.
Yeah, my buddy Cody, who's a Bengals/Burrow fan, said that just really couldn't talk. But I think he's fine. He'll play next week. Who do they have next week? I do have the schedule up here. They have the Lions.
Yeah.
Play your Bengals this week, guys. Burrow, play all your Bengals.
Joe Mixon's going off.
They're good to go. Trey Lance is going to miss some time with a sprained knee 1 to 2 weeks after a pitiful showing. My take of Trey Lance starting every game for the 49ers, besides the injury part, Jimmy G won that job back because Trey Lance did not play well. I know it was a tough defense against the Cardinals, but he did not look good. I don't care how good the defense is. He didn't look good. He didn't look like an NFL starting quarterback. So the Jimmy G show is back on. When did the Seahawks play the 49ers? We need Jimmy G in that football game. They play week, let's see. Well, what's
enough to
next?
end the
6,
season.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like week 12 or 13. All right. We need Jimmy G for that week for sure.
Trey Lance is taking the role back over. Trey Lance is so much better of a quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, and that
But he
rushing
looked terrible.
his legs are lethal.
But Shanahan said that Jimmy G's the
runner. starter. Phenomenal runner. If he's playing in your fantasy matchup, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that can get you 75, 90, 100 yards in a game, and that's what Trey Lance just did in his first start. I have zero concern about Trey Lance.
Well, who's more stubborn, Kyle Shanahan with Jimmy G or Matt Nagy with Andy Dalton?
It's Matt Nagy. Someone definitely told him you're starting the kid.
Ugh, Matt Nagy. I hate him. But, I mean, for the 49ers, Trey Lance's injury, I don't care who the quarterback is. You're only starting Deebo Samuel. Even when Kittle comes back, you probably have to start him because of that position. But Trey Sermon, we're going to talk about him. Elijah Mitchell, Ayuk, like all of them. You're not starting 49ers unless they're named Deebo Samuel. And I've talked about my pure despised hatred of Kyle Shanahan on this show from a fantasy perspective. He doesn't use his running backs. He doesn't use his receivers. He uses Kyle Juszczyk. He does stupid stuff that doesn't help our fantasy teams. So I don't know about you, but I'm avoiding every 49er except for Deebo for the rest of the season, and Kittle, but that's it for me.
I like Trey Lance, but that's it.
But do you like him as a starter in fantasy?
Yeah.
You like him as a top 10, 12 quarterback in fantasy?
I think so, because I think based on his matchup, I mean, he's going to get Seattle once more if he's the starter for that game. Should this injury not sideline him for that long, which I don't think it will. If he's getting that Seattle defense, he's going to put up numbers. Not going to be a question.
And that might be the 1 week. That might be the 1 week.
I mean, look, he's going to be a matchup dependent quarterback, which is anyone that is not one of those top 7, top 8 quarterbacks anyway. And that's exactly where Trey Lance is, and he's the only rookie that's right there right now.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Luckily, that is all the injury news that we have to talk about. So let's get into a weekly wrap, talking about the studs and the duds from this past week. So let's start off with the quarterbacks. The studs that we've picked out are Justin Herbert, quarterback 1, 42 points. Josh Allen, quarterback 3, 36 points. Jameis Winston, quarterback 4, 25. And shake and bake, Baker Mayfield with 23 points, quarterback 6. Nick, are you taking Herbert in this one that you want to talk about?
Yes, I am.
Well, I'm gonna jump the gun on this because I'm the host of the show, because I'm gonna take Justin Herbert as my stud of the week, not just because of the fact that he's quarterback 1, not just because of the fact that he put up 42. I put this man's head on a spike on Friday's show. I said he was a flop, and I was wrong. I've done a lot of good on this show. I've said a lot of things that I think are helpful and truthful, but I need to be honest here. He was a major lock, and I was a gazillion% wrong. I thought that Browns defense would be in his face. I thought that he was going to get rattled. I thought the corners would hold down those receivers, and they did not. I thought this was going to be a low-scoring game, and I think it was the highest scoring of the weekend. Yep. I was dead, 100% completely wrong. Put me in a body bag. I deserve it. And Herbert's on a roll. I think he has 3 straight games with like 30-plus points after a slow start. I forget if it was you or Cody who was a little off on him before the season. And by the way, I didn't get to mention this at the beginning of the show due to Jonathan Taylor's excitement. Cody's still dealing a little bit with a family thing. So that's why he's not on this show, and that's okay. He'll be back Friday. So,
just real quick, the other Cody Nick has been referencing is another Cody. Just like
yes, we have 2 Codys.
There's 2 Codys.
My roommate Cody, and then our co-host Cody. So so Cody will be back on Friday's show. All right, Nick, I took Herbert, so you can talk about Baker.
I don't want to talk about Baker. I'm not talking about Baker. I'll talk about Josh Allen. Josh, just like Nick said, Herbert proved him wrong. Josh Allen proved me wrong. I knew he'd put up a lot of points this week, but he's been consistent the past couple weeks. He's doing it. He's doing his job. I was concerned about the first 3 matchups. Week 1, week 2, he struggled. Ever since then, he's been on a roll. And I still think he's gonna bust on the season. Purely because where you drafted him, he needs to finish as a top 2 quarterback in fantasy for him to deliver.
But he will.
Well, it's not looking like he will right now. He's just outside it.
I don't know. He has the Jets and the Dolphins twice. He already faced the Dolphins once, but he has the Dolphins twice. He has the Jets twice, and the Patriots don't look good either.
The Jets have been good against opposing fantasy quarterbacks. I'll just say that.
It's true.
Wow. But yeah, so Josh Allen, look, he did his kudos. He got a big win in a big game. Good for him. I like the momentum. Keep it riding. Good luck, Josh Allen, rest of the year.
All right, and the duds for the quarterbacks. Nick's guy, Trey Lance, quarterback 18, 14 points. Nick's other guy, Kyler Murray, who's number one on the season, 13 points. He's been a dud a couple weeks now. Kirk Cousins, quarterback 21, 13, and Sam Darnold, quarterback 32. And I'll let you pick this one first. Who do you want to talk about?
Sam Darnold. Oh, Mr. 3 interceptions.
No.
I had to do it. So Zach Wilson might lead the league in picks, but come on, man. Sam Darnold with the hat trick. Oh, you love to see it. You love to see it. Nah, Sam Darnold, some people are saying he's startable every week. He's not. This was an incredibly favorable matchup that other teams have torched the secondary of, and he did not deliver. Right after this game, I'm sure Sam Darnold's not going to be QB 32. It will be QB 34. And when someone finishes at QB 34, you're probably not looking to start him for a couple weeks until they prove themselves again.
Guess who started him in one league? I started him over Tannehill. Yeah. But Taylor's going to win me that matchup, I believe. For me, I'm going to talk about Kirk Cousins. I sang the praises of the Vikings, and I think Thielen had 0 points. I was with my friend Tom watching the games at Miller's, and he had Adam Thielen. I don't think he had a reception until like the fourth quarter. He might have finished with 6 points. We have him. I forget what Thielen's number was, but he didn't finish with a lot. Or did he have a touchdown? Can you give me Thielen's number? Do we have it? We do. Yeah. So Thielen had a terrible game. Jefferson had a great game in the first half, but then he kind of disappeared. And Kirk
in
in
the
every
Alexander
game.
Madison show.
These Lions are weird. They're a weird football team. They held the Ravens to 16. They just held the Vikings to 14, 17. The Lions they're a weird football team. That's the best way to describe them. I don't know if they're good. They might be gritty. I don't know. But I still say start your Bengals next week. That offense.
I tried to warn you. You can't start Kirk Cousins over Trey Lance. Trey Lance's legs are lethal. They're both busted, but
you're right. All right, let's move on to the wide receivers. Guess who faced the number 1 and 2 wide receivers this week in fantasy football in my 2 big money leagues? Oh yeah, Devontae Adams scored like 50 right on my face. And Mike Williams scored 40 right on my face. The scoring system that we do on this show, at least, is ESPN standard scoring. Devontae Adams, wide receiver 1, 37 points. Mike Williams, wide receiver 2, 36 points. Clowntonio Brown, wide receiver 3, 31 points. Kadarius Toney, wide receiver 4, 29 points. Robert Woods finally showed up, wide receiver 7, 27 points against the Fantasy Carnival. I'm not going to include Callaway. I mean, 24 points. I think like 12 of it was against a Hail Mary, wide receiver 10. And Chase Claypool, wide receiver 11 with 24. Who do you want to talk about, Nick? I'm letting you take the reins on this one.
Antonio Brown, I said it at the start of the year. He's my guy that I'm taking over the other 2 wide receivers in that offense. I think once he stepped into that role, like you saw it in his first game in New England with Tom Brady. There was that instant connection. They like I'd never seen anything like it before in football. Like Tom Brady was throwing like routes to this guy, knowing where he was going to be, with them never playing a game before. Now that they had half a season and a Super Bowl to go through together, the connection was there. I love Antonio Brown rest of the year. I think he's a must start every single week, regardless of matchup. That team moves the ball no matter who they're facing. Even against the Rams, they struggled, but Antonio Brown still managed to be the most productive receiver out of any of them. Antonio Brown's the guy you got to start rest of the year if he's healthy and playing.
If you drafted Mike Williams or Antonio Brown in rounds like 6 to 10, or even both of them, like you're winning your fantasy leagues. If you have Mike Williams, you're probably winning most of your weeks because what a steal. I'm going to talk about Robert Woods. He's a guy I drafted over guys like Amari Cooper. I think I drafted him over Godwin and then got Godwin on the wrap. Mike Evans, because I thought Robert Woods would have the year that Cooper Kupp is having. And he's not, but Robert Woods is having he had a solid game. I don't even think he had a touchdown. I forget. Did he have a touchdown? I don't think he did.
I don't think he found the end zone, no.
I think he had like 140 yards or something like that and like 10 receptions.
Yeah, 12 receptions, 150 yards.
Yeah, so that's awesome. That's awesome that he's developing the chemistry with Stafford. Is he going to do that every week? No, but I think he's a guy you could trust now. I think you could lock him in for 5 receptions, 60, 70 yards, and he's going to get his end zone looks. So as a Robert Woods owner, I'm happy about it. I think he's trending upward. So yeah, I'm happy about that one for sure. All right, and the bust of the week, man. Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 36, 10 points. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 46, 8 points. I don't know how that happened. Wide receiver 47, DJ Moore. I don't have his points there. I think it's 8-something, 8-7, I think. Wide receiver 48, Terry McLaurin, 8.6. Wide receiver 49, Corey Davis, 8.6. Wide receiver 56, Allen Robinson. I don't know his number. It's between 6 and 8. AJ Brown, 6.8. Thielen, 6. And OBJ, 4. Nick, who's your biggest dud of the week with the wide receivers?
My God, do I hope Allen Robinson gets traded. It is a disaster there. The dude wanted out so badly, and they franchise tagged him to help Fields out. And my God, are they a horrendous team. Allen Robinson is still creating separation. Like, I don't think people understand. That offensive line has zero time for their quarterback, and Allen
They have
Robinson,
the worst line in the league. It's not even close.
They're so bad. And Allen Robinson is consistently still getting celebration, and the quarterbacks are not having time to get him the ball. I pray that this guy gets out of there so this way he can be Allen Robinson, the top 10, 15 wide receiver in the NFL, and not some guy that's looked at as like, I think he's a wide receiver 60 on the year because he hasn't been able to have a good game given this terrible
He's
situation.
not startable anymore. Your third-round pick isn't startable.
It's
Even if you have to start
awful.
4 receivers, you're still not starting Allen Robinson, in my opinion. He's at 4 dud weeks now, or 5, 4 out of 5.
5 in a row.
Yeah, like Allen Robinson, I don't care about the name. He's not startable anymore in fantasy lineups. I'm gonna run through this list a little quicker. Diggs, it's a weird one. I mean, he'll be fine, but like that's such a weird one. AJ Brown first came back with a hamstring. That offense is running through Derrick Henry right now. OBJ still not really getting going. Adam Thielen, kind of an off game. Tyler Lockett, I touched on this on the Sunday morning show, but I know a lot of you were watching the Jets game, but Tyler Lockett's going to suffer without Russ. Tyler Lockett needs Russ more than Russ needs Tyler Lockett. DK's the big animal over there. He's the big dog. He's the alpha. If you're lining up people on the food chain, DK is the great white shark, and Tyler Lockett's like a hammerhead. You don't mess around with the great white. So he's going to get whatever targets he wants. DK is going to be the guy to lead that charge with Geno Smith. Tyler Lockett, to me, like I got to see what he does on Sunday Night Football, but man, he could be a rough start these next few weeks. He hasn't had one of those boom weeks in 3 weeks now. I don't think he's going to have one until Russell Wilson comes back, which is hopefully in 4 weeks. But I think Lockett's in trouble big time. And Corey Davis, he's not startable. He had 2 good weeks out of 5. I thought against that Falcons defense, he would be a good play. No, he's not startable. He's riding the bench for a while. All right, moving on to running backs. Our biggest studs of the week, Austin Eckler, back-to-back weeks. Was he the running back 1 last week, too? He was top 3.
I think he was the 2 to Henry.
Yeah, he was up there. He had a great – I mean, he gave people some Monday Night miracles like Jonathan Taylor's trying to do now.
Gave me one.
Austin Eckler, 32 points, running back 1. Myles Gaskin rose from the dead, 31 points, running back 2. Running back 5, Alexander Madison, 26. Running back 6, Kareem Hunt, 25. And running back 13, playoff Super Bowl Lenny with 21 points. Who do you want to talk about, Nick?
I'm just going to talk about one real quick, and then I'll get in depth on the other one.
Sure.
Real quick, Austin Eckler. In my first draft, I took him with my first-round pick. I took him at the 7th spot. I took him over Zeke, over Saquon, over Devontae Adams, over Tyreek Hill. Those were the guys I took him over. And it's because I truly believed that Eckler would finish as a top 3 running back. And I'm annoyed at myself because I believed it, but I always like to space around what I have. And I had 4 drafts where I picked from the 7th spot, and every single one he was available. And I only took him in that first league because I just wanted to get diversity in my lineup.
See, I wish I had gone diversity, and I went Taylor in all 4 of my leagues. But tonight he showed up. So
he's showing up so far.
Didn't want to cut you off, but yeah. So
No,
I didn't go diversity in any of my leagues, and maybe that's why I'm going to be 2-3, 2-3, 3-2, 3-2, or something like that. Whatever my records are going to be.
Yeah, but Eckler, I mean, I was so high on him before the year, and I'm so hyped to see it paying off. The first week we had concern because he got all his points on the ground without a single target. And
I think he was banged up too. Was he banged up week 2 maybe?
He was banged up the first 2 weeks of the season. He came in with a hamstring injury, and he followed that out into week 2, and then he's been like atop the cliff ever since. So I love him rest of the season. Kareem Hunt, you got to start this man every week. He's had double-digit touches in every single week. He's getting multiple targets a game. That's where he really is a threat. He could play wide receiver, and he just doesn't because he's so good at running the ball. This guy was, I think, a top 3 running back when he was in the Chiefs his rookie year. And when he got cut from there, I mean, he went to Cleveland, and he's only ascended, even playing behind this running back in Nick Chubb. I mean, Kareem Hunt is phenomenal. He's a must-start. He should finish. I mean, right now, I think he's the running back 8 in fantasy, which is phenomenal considering he's a backup running back. He's outperforming Nick Chubb on the year.
He's 8. Yeah, he might be the running back 1 in Cleveland going forward. And you're starting both no matter what, but I don't know. Right now, it's tough.
Just real quick on that, like I was hyped because what I did in our draft is I said I'm gonna be happy if I can get Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and that on every week they can put up 40 points. And there was only 1 week where they weren't able to do that as a pair. Yeah. So you got to be hype as an owner.
Miles Gaskin, he saved himself from being on stash or trash, and I guess, I don't know if you're comfortable starting him, but with the position so thin, you may have to. Alexander Madison, like the guy's had 2 really good weeks when he started, so I don't know if his contract's up by the end of the year, but this man, I don't know. I think he's going to go to a team where he's going to start because I know the Vikings are a run-first team. I know it's also the system, but you still got to be good. And I don't think he had a touchdown in this game. I think he had 26 points without a touchdown. I'm pretty sure. Oh, wow. I think so. Can you check that for me?
Yeah.
I was watching NFL Network earlier, and I don't think they said that he had a touchdown. But I want to talk about Fournette.
He did get one. So I'll read his stat line real quick. 25 touches, 113 yards, 7 for 7. 7 receptions on 7 targets for 40 yards and a touchdown.
Okay, so the NFL Network that I watched just did the rushing leaders, and that's why they didn't have the touchdown. But yeah, if that guy could catch the ball too, I mean,
just so people understand how crazy that is Christian McCaffrey's weekly that line.
Yeah.
That's what
so Madison's a guy. How old is he? I got to look this up right now because I was talking to my buddy Tom, and he was saying like he might keep him if he goes to a different team. Like, let's see, Alexander Madison. Age. I got to look this up right now. 23. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, that guy needs he needs to get to a different team because that guy he might be able to start in the league. Playoff Lenny, Leonard Fournette's assumed that running back 1 role in Tampa, and I'm taking back what I said a couple weeks ago that I don't want to touch these Bucs running backs. I want to touch Leonard Fournette because guess what? He caught 4 for 5 for 43 yards. That's like 9 points right there. Then he had 12 attempts, 67 yards, and a touchdown. They like using him towards the goal line. He's a big body. Rojo, he can't catch the ball. He can't block. He's not running well. Fournette's the number 1 now. If you have Fournette, you could trust him in your lineups as a running back too. All right, and the duds of the week, not many running back duds in the week at all. Like the top guys all produced for the first time in a long time. Joe Mixon, running back 32, 10.5, but he played with an injury. He's on this, but he played with an injury. Running back 34, Miles Sanders. He's been 10 points. He's been living on the dud list. He's a timeshare here. Chase Edmonds 4.4 and Trey Sermon 0.7. Not even 1. 0.7. Yeah. That's not even a reception. That is 7 yards. All right, Nick, who's your biggest dud of the week?
All right, I will talk about Sermon later with stash or trash. Mine's Chase Edmonds. He's the guy that I said I was avoiding on the year, and everybody was like, he's going to be an average running back. No, they brought in James Conner, who was an upgrade over Kenyon Drake to run the ball, and he's the rushing leader on this team. That's where they're running the ball. And Chase Edmonds' true game was true workload was in the passing game, in those short little screen passes and stuff and check downs when Kyler's getting rushed. But Kyler Murray's a short quarterback that does not see over the defensive line, does not see over his offensive line, and he likes to run the ball. So you're not getting a lot of checkdowns from a guy like that versus someone like Giovanni Bernard, who's going to catch 7 balls from Tom Brady because Tom Brady's not running the ball. That was the concern with Chase Edmonds into the year, and that was my concern. It's something you got to look out for. I'd look to move him if you have him.
Miles Sanders is a problem. He's on this list every week, and he's not playable at this point. The Eagles, most of the Eagles aren't playable. That's a team I'm really starting to avoid just about everywhere. I don't have much more to say. He's not getting the touches. He's not getting the red zone looks. He's not playable. I don't have much more to say. If you have Miles Sanders, you shouldn't have drafted him. That's really all I could say because I wasn't touching him in 4 leagues. Somebody else did, and I'm glad I'm not one of them. Tight ends, David Njoku, tight end 1, 27 points. Kyle Pitts, tight end 2, finally makes an appearance on this list with 26 points. Tight end 3, Dawson Knox. He's been on this list a lot too, 20 points. Hunter Henry, tight end 4, 19 points. Tight end 6, Dalton Schultz. Nick had to throw him on there with 13.
I had to throw Dalton Schultz.
Nick, who is your biggest tight end stud of the week?
We all know I love Schultz and that consistent production.
Actually, who are you taking in this one? Because I think I want to take the reins on this one.
I'm taking number 2. You good with that?
I was going to take take Pitts. Take Pitts. Yeah, I was going to take Knox. So take Pitts.
All right, let me just quickly. Schultz didn't need to find the end zone to find 6 catches for 79 yards. That's a must start every week at the tight. He should finish it with the end spot by the end of the year. Not a question in my mind at this point. Kyle Pitts broke the record for most receiving yards by a tight end in his first 5 games, and this was the first time he found the end zone. It took Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage not being there to compete with the targets.
And the Jets secondary.
And the Jets secondary and linebackers to guard him. Maybe Jamal Adams is a little bit better. But we won't get into
I don't know. It didn't look too good on Thursday night. It didn't look too hot.
Look, Kyle Pitts finally delivered on where you drafted him. You should be excited. If you own him in Dynasty, you're hype. If you own him in a keeper league and we're able to get him, you should be hype. If you own him this season, you should be hype. He's going to finish as a top 10 tight end. So the concerns you had early on, it took him a couple games to get into his groove, but now he's starting to get it. And he broke a record for receiving yards in his rookie year. Good for him. Should follow out the passing yardage, and Matt Ryan loves to throw that ball. So
Dawson Knox has 3 straight games, 14, 20, 26. He's averaging like 4 or 5 targets a game. And he's not just an end zone target. Like, yeah, he has 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. So I've called him this year's Robert Tonyan, and he is to an extent. But this week, 3 receptions on 4 targets for 117 yards. Allen likes this guy a lot. He's finding him in open space, and he's running routes. He's not just an end zone threat. This is a guy that Allen's going to keep throwing to. He's a guy you can lock in your lineup now, I think. I think he's a top 10 tight end, especially with the injuries to guys like Logan Thomas and Kittle. He's a guy you could lock into your lineups comfortably, knowing that Josh Allen's going to be running a top 3-4 offense in the league, and they're going to be the 1 seed for a while as long as everybody's healthy. So they're going to throw the ball a lot. They're not going to rush a lot. Start Dawson Knox most.
Just real quick, I want to ask you a quick question so we don't screw with our viewers. David Njoku, in my opinion, I'm still not starting him anywhere.
Nope. Don't even pick him up. Nope.
He is your tight end. Boom. That means absolutely nothing of the week from me.
We need a segment every week for the useless tight end that people are going to rush to pick up, because every week it's somebody, whether it's Max Williams or, who else do we have?
It was Juwan Johnson, week 1, Saints tight end. That was the
Williams.
Big one. That was the one. Max Williams was a big one. Zach Ertz feels like a big one.
CJ Uzoma.
Yeah, that's another one. There's going to be one every week.
Yeah. What about your tight end dud on the week? Tight end 14, Darren Waller. Tight end 26, Noah Fant. Tight end 28, Dallas Goedert. Tight end 32, TJ Hawkinson. Tight end 49, Zach Ertz.
Nick, you told me to ride Ertz with you. We both suffered the Kittle injury.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz is there. He saw 7 targets, and he found 1.7 points on it. Come on, Ertz. I really hope this guy gets traded to Arizona.
He got 6 targets. He got 1 reception of the 6 of them. Like, ugh.
I really hope that he gets traded over to Arizona. I think he'll have such a better role there.
Man. I got to talk about TJ Hawkinson. First 2 weeks, over 20 points. Last 3 weeks, he's combined for 15 points. He had 8 targets one of those weeks, but the other 2, he's at 2 and 3. The Lions are a run-first team. I don't want to start any pass catcher. And TJ Hawkinson, maybe from where you drafted him, you have to start him, but those numbers aren't good. 3 points, 8 points, and 4. Those just aren't startable numbers in fantasy football. So that's a problem. And they have the Bengals next. The Bengals defense has been sturdy. Then they have the Rams. It's going to be rough for Hawk. It's going to be rough. Those are your biggest studs and duds of the week. Now let's go to the waiver wire. And we're going to look for our waiver wire for week 6 targets. So, Nick, we have a couple guys here that people should look to target. Darrell Williams, Devontae Booker, Chris Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kadarius Toney, and Tim Patrick. Nick, who are your top 2, maybe 3 waiver wire targets on the week?
So my number 1 is Devontae Booker. I think that with an ankle sprain and with all the injuries that Saquon has suffered, it's very possible he sees more time missed. You should pick him up as a Saquon owner and have that handcuff secured for the rest of the season. And if you're able to get him, he's one of those guys. If you're someone that likes to stash Madison, Hubbard, those guaranteed, locked in 3-down handcuffs, but you do not own that player, this is the guy that's right up your alley. Devontae Booker is going to see production every game that he plays. He's more than talented enough to assume the role, and he's going to assume the workload without a problem. The other guy that I really like here is Darrell Williams. The Chiefs always find a way to get towards the goal line, and they struggled this week, and I think it will be a concern for other players, but the Chiefs go up against Washington, who has been absolutely horrendous as a team that was great on defense last year and just bad this year. Heineke also likes to turn the ball over a couple times, so he's going to see some of those short fields and some of those quick goal line rushes. I like Williams as a starter in some weeks, especially at a thin running back position.
For me, I'm not taking Devontae Booker unless I have a later waiver, and if I think I need to have Saquon Barkley. I like Darrell Williams because I know that Clyde is going to be out a couple weeks, so Darrell Williams is my number one just because of the running back. Kadarius Toney's my number 2. He's had 9 targets and then 13. I think he's assuming a role in this Giants offense, so I want him on my football team. And then for number 3, it's Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick had 14 points with the Broncos. They were just a weird offense. I say weird a lot, but we're still trying to figure out a lot of these teams. But Tim Patrick, his targets are good: 4, 4, 5, 6, 9. He's had over 12 fantasy points 4 out of 5 weeks. That's better than Allen Robinson. So yeah, Tim Patrick should be on rosters. If he's a free agent in your league, go scoop him up. He's rostered in 29% of leagues. I think he's taken all of my leagues because I don't play with dumbbells. Kadarius Toney, same thing. Rostered in 12% of leagues, but he's owned in all of mine. Yeah. So yeah, go out and get them if they're available. Darrell Williams, probably the number 1 waiver on the week, though. All right, and for our last segment, we're going to do some stash or trash. We'll tell you if we want to keep these players or if it's time to send them to the curb. All right, graphics up. Let's start out with Devin Singletary. We've talked about him once or twice, but he's a trash for me. I think Zach Moss is kind of the number 1, and I don't want to start a Bills running back anyway.
I like Moss the rest of the season. I'm holding on to Singletary because I need someone to hold the backup running back position. But, I mean, if you don't need him, I would not hold him.
Wow. All right. John Gruden just informed his staff that he plans to resign as the Raiders coach.
Okay.
All right. I had to get that one out there.
You want to talk about it real quick? Outlook?
Yeah. Wow. Okay, then. The Raiders have been serviceable in fantasy. I mean, Derek Carr's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback, I think, or top 5-10, like 3 out of 5 weeks. Waller's still Waller. Hunter Renfro's been a solid flex option. Wow. Middle of the season, a coach is going to just take over. I don't know. I mean, how does this affect those Raiders? I mean, the only one I'm starting is probably Waller week to week.
I like Waller week to week. I still like Renfro based on your matchup, like Carr. Gruden still was not. I don't think Gruden was calling plays anyway there. So it's not going to take too much of a toll on the offense, but we'll see how they fire back. I think Waller's the only one I would start the upcoming week, and you kind of got to gauge where they're at right now. Sorry, it's too short notice. We'll touch more on it, I think, Friday.
Well, we have Raiders here, so I'm just going to bump it up. Henry Ruggs, is he now that you know this, is Henry Ruggs a stash or trash?
I'm still stashing Ruggs because I love the talent that he has. But I mean, you definitely got to keep a much more keen eye on his role this next week.
Trash. He's had like 2 weeks over 10 points, I think, or something like that. Renfro's clearly the receiver there. I would only keep Renfro and Waller from that offense. I mean, and I guess Jacobs. How about Kenyon Drake? Is Kenyon Drake one that you're stashing or trashing?
No, you could cut him.
Yeah, I'm with that too. Yeah, I'm going to cut him as well. I don't want Kenyon Drake on my team. All right. How about Robbie Anderson? He's been a guy that you've been very, very high on. Yeah, is he a guy that you're stashing or trashing now?
I'm still holding him. Without McCaffrey, he saw 11 targets 2 weeks ago, and he saw 7 this past week. You're averaging 9 targets a game. You'll find production in some way. They had a really terrible game against the Eagles. I think it's just a one-off. I'm not too concerned. I know Robbie had some tougher games, but there's still some level of connection with Darnold. Even DJ Moore struggled in this game. And, if Robbie's going to see 7 targets a game, he's someone that should still sit on your bench knowing how talented he is with a team that's paying him $10 million a year.
I think you have to stash him, but I'm not.
I'm not keen on playing him. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm not either. How about Brandon Ayuk? This is a really tough one. Like, he hasn't had a good week.
This is probably the toughest one. I'm someone that owns him in 2. I think I'm cutting loose because they're going on bye this week. So you really are going to now hold a guy through a bye week where you could get a prominent waiver pickup like a Kadarius Toney, where you already just saw how much of a guaranteed workload he has, or Tim Patrick, another guy with a ton of workload, and you got to wait another week to see if he's productive. I can't let the guy sit on my bench 7 weeks and not feel comfortable any of them except week 1 where he put up a goose egg. I'm sorry. I think it's time you cut Ayuk.
I think so too. It's name value at this point. You don't know the quarterbacks. You don't know. It's about that time. What about Curtis Samuel?
Yeah, you could cut him. You had him on your IR spot. If you have an IR, you had him on your bench, or you picked him up when he was first week healthy. And Adam Humphries actually had a role in this offense. Once Logan Thomas comes back, there's going to be practically no role for him. That offense is pretty crowded, actually, from a fantasy perspective, between JD, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, Adam Humphries, and Logan Thomas, and now Curtis Samuel. I just don't think he's going to have too much of a role with Heineke at quarterback.
Yeah. How about 49ers running backs? I'm cutting, like, maybe Sermon and Dynasty, but nope. I want no point of I want no part of the 49ers. Nope. Cut them.
I love Sermon going into the year. I'm sorry. I'm cutting loose as well.
Yeah, cut him.
It's time.
What about Cole Beasley?
That's a good one. I don't know if he's riding on too much name value because I think he had a couple productive weeks, didn't he? I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. I'm going to look it up right now. Beasley's numbers are 14, 7, 23, 1.5. I'm cutting him. In 3 of those games, he had 4 targets or less. Emmanuel Sanders is there. So is Dawson Knox, Diggs. Like, I'm cutting him.
That's fair. I think it's fair to cut Beasley. Maybe you could try and trade him on the name value to someone else in your league. But I don't think there will be a week you're probably comfortable starting him.
No. So, Jonnu Smith and Robert Tonyan, I wouldn't roster either of them. I'm throwing them. They're 2 tight ends. I mean, I don't know if you want to.
Jonnu Smith, like the talent of, he's getting cut. Robert Tonyan not finding that touchdown work we thought he would.
Nope. Devonta Parker, I'm probably keeping him for now. He's had a couple productive weeks. So what about you? Stash or trash on Devonta Parker?
I'll hold him for now. I want to see what it's like when Tua gets back because he's still too good of a player to just cut.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers haven't been great either. 12, 9, 8, 17. I'd say if you could get one of these waiver guys that we've talked about, Kadarius Toney, Tim Patrick, or Darrell Williams, any of those guys, I'd cut him, but he's keepable for sure. What about Jared Cook?
Nope.
Cutting him. Yeah. Rojo, I think we cut him.
Just real quick, Jared Cook is still owned in like 70% of leagues. It's proven that there's tight ends that are going to finish in the top 10. You didn't that were on the waiver wire through 4 weeks. He should be gone.
Rojo, we're both cutting him. I think we cut him last week, so he's gone. Yep. 2 quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones. I'm stashing them because you need a backup quarterback, as I learned this week, because when Russell Wilson went down, I went to my waiver wire and saw Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, I think Trey Lance wasn't even there, Jared Goff, Zach Wilson, and Matt Ryan. And I said, that's no good. So I'm stashing. We have 3 quarterbacks on this list: Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, and Tannehill. I'm stashing all 3 of them as a backup. You need a backup quarterback just in case something happens.
The only one I'm holding on to is Daniel Jones. He's still a top 10 quarterback, even with 1 or 2 rough weeks.
So who are you replacing Kirk Cousins with?
I don't trust Kirk Cousins.
But who are you replacing?
I don't roster a backup quarterback because I always take a quarterback that's good enough. If you have a Russell Wilson injury,
but he's injured. I'm saying if he's injured, who do you pick up then? Who would you rather have right now?
Matchups. You stream your quarterback. That's what you're doing till Russell Wilson gets.
But
back.
you're okay.
You play the matchup.
Okay, that's fair. But I would rather have Kirk Cousins right now than Trevor Lawrence, who's my backup.
The Vikings play.
I gotta start Trevor Lawrence next week against Miami, which isn't a terrible matchup, but I don't really like starting Trevor. I don't want to start Trevor.
Minnesota plays Carolina next week.
I will take Kirk Cousins scoring more than every quarterback that was on my waiver wire this week. Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Matt Ryan. Kirk Cousins is going to outscore them in week 6.
Well, half of them are on bye, so that's
Well,
fine.
I didn't see the buys, so he'll outscore the other 3 for sure. All right, and the last question we have here: any rookie quarterback you'd stash? Maybe Trevor, nobody else.
Trey Lance, that's it.
I want no part of Trey Lance. All right, that is Stash or Trash. Hopefully, we helped you guys out with players to keep and players to pick up on your waiver wire. That was your show for this week. Sorry, it was a little crazy this week. A lot of news and some breaking stuff. That was fun though. If you enjoyed,
breaking 76-yard touchdown.
Yeah. If you enjoyed the show, hopefully you did. And this is your first time. Thank you so much. The show is every Tuesday and Friday. We usually have our third man, Cody. He'll be back on Friday. The audio versions of the show can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. If you're on iTunes, 5 stars and a review, please. We appreciate it. If you want to watch the show instead, go to our YouTube channel at PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. And then we also have a live show every Sunday on our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, talking daily fantasy, injury news, and answering all of your fantasy questions right before kickoff. If you want to follow us on social media to support us there, and please do, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, PrimeTimeFFPod, Facebook, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, and YouTube, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. Nick, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Guys, you're definitely going to want to check out the Friday show this week with the first week of bye weeks. And, you obviously saw who we're stashing, who we're trashing. Some of those guys that are fringe flex plays, they're going to become a lot more prominent. Jets are on bye. Falcons are on bye. 49ers are on bye. And the Saints are on bye. That's 4 teams with a lot of starters. You got Kamara in there. You got a couple other running backs. You got a ton of good receivers in those games that you were debating starting every week. You're going to need to know. Make sure you're there on Friday. Make sure you're there live on Sunday.
You can follow me on Twitter at @TheNickGiacobi for fantasy talk and everything else. Thank you guys. We'll see you on Friday.